Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're building a Western-style log cabin in Oklahoma with WesternPioneer. Long before steel and concrete became the symbols of modern architecture, log cabins were a staple of the American frontier. Simple yet functional shelters that reflected the spirit of self-reliance and adaptability. This rustic style of home took root in the 1600s, when immigrants from Scandinavia brought traditional building techniques and adapted to their new environment with their own hands. The work began with the selection of a large plot of land, located near an area with plenty of trees, plenty of sunlight, and a natural water source. The logs were stacked and shaped entirely by hand, a meticulous but necessary process to minimize air gaps and ensure the stability of the structure. Without the aid of modern machinery, he measured and cut the wood with a handsaw, then secured each piece with nails, step by step, building the first frame of the house. Cedar was traditionally used by settlers in the West because of its natural resistance to insects and decay. However, it also has the disadvantage of being highly flammable, so builders often refrain from using it for residential construction, especially in areas with a high risk of wildfire. The crisscrossing of the logs in this structure mimics a traditional construction technique once common in log cabins and other small load-bearing structures. It is a prime example of a type of vernacular architecture where the strength comes from layers of timber stacked horizontally and held together by their own weight. This method of joining keeps the entire structure tight and stable, without the need for nails or glue. Pre-cut notches allow each log to fit neatly into the vertical posts, locking them into place and ensuring the stability of the entire structure. As the structure began to expand, he decided it would be safer to add additional anchor points, driving nails through the frame to provide additional stability. Each board was placed across uneven and slightly uneven beams, so he nailed them in a way that distributed the force, helping the boards hold and resist blowing away in high winds. To improve the flatness of the surface, while also aiding in air circulation and humidity control, he added small wooden planks underneath each board to act as support pads, a small but effective detail that improved the surface and durability of the structure. The act of framing the door at this stage marked a significant shift in the function of the shelter, from a mere structure to an actual home. Historically, the door was not only a means of entry, but also a symbol of ownership, privacy, and a sense of belonging. This also highlighted the pioneer's design philosophy: utilitarianism, minimizing material needs by allowing nature to complete the structure. Instead of extending the space outward, he chose to dig deep into the ground, letting the natural soil form half of the wall. This decision not only saved on materials, but also increased the ability to withstand strong winds, an essential feature for the Midwestern prairie, where harsh conditions once forced people to adapt in any way possible. The red clay soil here is one of the most recognizable features of Oklahoma, and it also presented a major challenge during construction. The soil is very hard, requiring a lot of effort to dig, especially when constructing the foundation and lowering the wooden frame to the ground. Each log needs to be stacked very tightly against the log below, naturally locking together to form a solid wall that can withstand harsh weather. Notably, the bark is left intact instead of peeled off, not only providing a rustic, natural look, but also acting as an additional layer of insulation for the entire structure. Further reinforcing the window frames was an important step to prevent stress buildup over time and allow the wood to expand and contract naturally with the seasons without compromising the overall structure. The choice of square, straight cut, and sanded timber for the window frames creates an interesting contrast to the rough, rounded logs of the walls, a rustic yet intentional detail that complements the overall aesthetic. At the same time, the builders also paid special attention to the treatment of important gaps, ensuring that cold air and moisture cannot penetrate inside, which is especially necessary to maintain temperature stability and protect the longevity of the entire structure. Before proceeding with the construction of the next wall, the inner layer of clay needed to be redistributed to create a flat and stable working surface. This clay not only helped to level the ground, but also acted as a natural binder, able to retain its shape without crumbling over time. Each wall section was carefully calculated and constructed entirely by hand. The logs were arranged to match the curvature and features of the existing terrain, ensuring that the structure was both sturdy and firmly attached to the original ground. The pit not only serves as a backfill or foundation, but also acts as a natural rainwater collector. As water collects in the pit, it softens the surrounding clay, significantly reducing the manual effort required to mine and process this soil. It is an ancient but ingenious technique, often used in areas without modern pumping systems. A solution that makes the most of natural conditions, a solution that the ancients learned through experience. Now, he harvests the grass blocks, also known as sod bricks, using a handcrafted technique from historic times, especially the pioneer era. He uses a specialized tool to cut and shape the ancient rectangular bricks. In the prairies and plains of 19th century America, when wood and stone were scarce, settlers used topsoil covered with sod to build their homes. It was a practical and clever way to make the most of what nature had to offer. Now he's recreating that technique, building a mud house that's true to the spirit of the frontier, simple, sturdy, and deeply connected to its surroundings. In the final stages, we will witness the meticulous handcrafting process of completing a rope bed. A simple piece of furniture, but with a strong imprint of the pioneer period. The process begins with the preparation of raw logs, carefully peeled with hand tools. The wooden slats, although not uniform in size, are still firmly joined together thanks to the technique of cutting and mortising wooden pegs by hand. The most special and remarkable feature lies in the bed surface. Ropes are hand-woven in a cross shape, stretched across the wooden frame to form a solid mesh surface. The rope weaving technique not only creates comfort, but also brings the necessary elasticity, at the same time demonstrating the craftsmanship and experience accumulated over many generations. As the project progressed toward completion, he moved on to the more delicate but no less important part, installing a cast-iron wood stove inside the cabin. At the same time, he also began installing the windows, small panes of glass attached to the wooden frame with metal hinges and screws. Each window not only brings natural light into the cabin, but also helps to ventilate and regulate the temperature. Simple in design but effective, these windows complete the rustic yet functional living space, true to the pioneering spirit, making the most of available materials and resources, aiming for sustainability and adapting to nature. The metal joints and edges of the roof are precisely calculated to avoid water stagnation, a key factor in maintaining the structure's long-term durability. With the frame and wood cladding complete, the transition to a grass or green roof officially begins. A classic but sustainable option that has been used for centuries in harsh climates. He lays a waterproof membrane over the polyethylene-covered roofing, creating a first line of defense. Next, he starts shoveling and throwing soil onto the roof, a seemingly simple act that reflects a deep understanding of insulation, drainage, and erosion control. Once the soil is evenly distributed, it creates a stable base for natural vegetation, which cools the summer, warms the winter, and helps the building blend into the surrounding landscape. He further reinforced the roof by placing a main pillar right inside. This pillar essentially acts as a central bearing point, helping to evenly distribute the load of the grass roof and reduce the pressure on the beams below. In addition to its supporting function, it also contributes to maintaining the structural integrity of the entire roof beam system. Especially important when the roof covering material is soil and vegetation, which is heavy and subject to seasonal changes. The use of a single wooden pillar, placed at the right key position, shows a deep understanding of the principles of balance and force distribution in folk architecture. The Western-style wooden house finally took shape, sturdy, rough, but full of life. From each hand-carved log, the grass roof covered with soil, to the small window frame welcoming the morning sunlight, every detail reflects the craftsman's perseverance, ingenuity, and practical thinking. Without the need for modern machinery or expensive materials, he built a shelter with his own hands and experience accumulated from hundreds of years of tradition. The house is not just a place to live, it is a symbol of independence, creativity, and the ability to adapt to harsh nature. A rustic but spirited construction, true to the spirit of the pioneers of the past who crossed the grasslands, reclaimed the land, and left a lasting mark on this land.